Today we're going to talk about what you actually need to know regarding what happened on Google last week. Welcome to the Up in My Business podcast with me, Lex Lancaster, where you'll get an inside look at all things tech, business, and my life as a physical therapist turned digital operations expert. You'll hear all about my lessons as a business owner, the ins and outs of tech for your business, and more. From SEO, websites, and email marketing to automations, launches, and copywriting, I've got you. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. This episode is brought to you by Jane, a clinic management software built to help you focus on what matters most, your patients. Building rapport with your patients is important during appointments, and that can be challenging when you're also trying to take timely and detailed documentation. That's why Jane built AI Scribe to help you document important information without the manual note-taking. This feature transforms your sessions, seriously, it's amazing, into chart entries, and all you have to do is review your notes, sign the chart, and you're done. And since security is a top priority at Jane, seriously, it is so important to them. AI Scribe was built securely in-house to be fully HIPAA and PIP EDA compliant. With a tool you can trust, Jane helps you spend more time on patient care. To learn more about how Jane can help change how you feel about documentation, head to meet.jane.app/documentation to book a demo or sign up. And if you're ready to go, don't forget to use my code LEX1MO for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. And if you're curious about AI Scribe, I highly recommend you go ahead and take a demo with Jane because I saw it in action and it is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Up in My Business. I am recording for you today late on Sunday because I have spent the past week, so Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and some of yesterday and more of today, prepping for the SEO School launch, not just, prepping the emails and prepping the product to be bought and blah, 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 but prepping for, the content. I refilmed everything and man, am I proud. I am so proud of what this course is going to be. So before I jump into more of that stuff, I want to just let you know that next Monday, SEO School will open for enrollment to the public. If you are not on the wait list, you will be not a part of my waitlist launch, which is this week. During the waitlist launch, you can join my newsletter list and then you'll be notified next Monday. So Monday, I'm looking at my calendar now, 29th, when public enrollment opens, and you can join in then. So I have spent the past, like I said, week re-recording this course, and obviously I have built out the slides well before this. That was why I hadn't filmed it before, because I needed to actually build out the content and also rework the content. So there were some things that basically what I did was I said, I always get this question. I always get this question. People are always curious about this thing. What can I do to then make this question not come up? Because clearly what I'm teaching, I'm leaving this part out if I continue to get this question. So I reworked everything. I added in all of the typical questions that I get, the concerns that come up. I reworked the entire curriculum. I made it super searchable. So like if you forget how to do something, you just get to go back and open it up. And I have a workbook that is 108 pages, I believe, 108 pages, which I'm super proud of that. There's another thing that I'm considering making, but I'm not going to say that on this podcast right now because I am really excited about it, but I just have to figure out how to go about doing that. So I stay tuned on that, but in SEO School, man, I am so pumped for what this program is going to be. Truly, truly pumped. And re-recording it, I'm just like, Shantae and I always talk about the fact, like, if you look back at your content, it's, everyone will always be like, oh, it was so bad. And we will look back and we're like, oh, it was good. It was good. And like, now it's just, we have the opportunity to make it even better. And that's where it's at. Like SEO School was really good. And now it's just great. And I am so, so proud of it. So if you're interested in learning how to do your own SEO and want my method at your fingertips, then make sure you are on my newsletter list so that you will be notified when SEO School opens next Monday. Now, for today's episode, the only thing that I want to talk about is, I'm just going to say, just some frustrations and also the benefits of some stuff that's going on in the search world. So just so you know, when it comes to Google and the company that Google is, obviously they spend money and they have a lot of money. And one of the things that they spend money on is they're able to see if you are in a certain position in search, right? So at the end of the day, when we look at what comes up when you search for something on Google, we have the top 10 results that come up, and that's called the first page of the search engine results page. So that's SERP. It's called a SERP. So the first page, position 1 through 10, that really is like where you want to be. It always has been. That has never changed. When it comes to SEOists implementing SEO, the messaging is that page 2 is where pages go to die because no one goes past page 1. So the goal has and always will be to be on page 1 of Google, which is in the top 10 search results. That's why for the longest time, when you look at statistics, you're either split up in position 1 or your position 2 through 10, and then it's 11 through 19, and 11 through 20, and then 21 through 100. Because those are like the big goal markers, if you will. So when it came down to some updates that Google did, three things. First things first is Google does what we call updates. Typically, it's 3 to 4 times a year. And when Google does an update, it oftentimes affects people's stats. What goes on in said updates, you're never really aware of exactly what it is. And I'm in a lot of forums. I follow a lot of SEO people. Like, we don't know exactly what's going on. And that's done on purpose, just like you don't know every single thing that Google looks at in order to rank you. So it is secretive in that way that you don't know everything. So you don't ever know what they're actually doing, but what often happens is the update will start, a bunch of people will get upset, it'll come up in search forums, and then they'll say like, oh, we're working on getting rid of duplicate content, or we're working on getting content that is spammy offline. And even if you don't have spammy content or content that is not, I'm going to say duplicated, what have you, oftentimes your stats will go down. Now, that's just like, it is what it is. The cool part about that is that when you have implemented SEO tactics and strategy that aligns with Google's best practices, what happens after those updates is your stats go back and then they continue to grow. So you might notice a slight dip, but then you continue to grow after that. You're not consistently going downward. Now, if you implement if you implement SEO tactics that are not in line with Google's best practices, what happens is these updates will affect you and you likely will not recover. So I always say there is a way to do SEO wrong and there's a way to do SEO right. And the way to do it wrong is if you're affected by these updates because you did a bunch of black hat, what it's called, black hat strategy for SEO, it's very evident because you don't recover from those updates. And oftentimes you can see a drastic decrease in your traffic. So if you have implemented Google's best practices with SEO and you're tracking all of your visitors, you're tracking clicks, what have you, typically you will recover from that relatively quickly. And again, you will continue to grow because SEO is not exponential, but it's compounding. So it will continue to help you over the course of time. You won't just have this update happen and then suddenly you're never growing again. Now, what happens? So it's like normal updates, 3 to 4 times a year, that happens. People are like, well, why would I do SEO if Google's just going to throttle me anyway? Because the whole point is that if you're doing SEO right, those updates aren't going to affect you. It's only going to take the people who are doing it poorly out of the game. We all want that, right? We want the people who are fudging it. We want the people who are doing I'm going to say bad things to be knocked out of the game. That is a good thing. They're actually changing things and implementing things in order to catch people who are falsifying their data in order to come up in search. We want that. So we don't want to get rid of these updates, right? Now, one of the things that Google recently did, it was it was the Thursday before, they implemented this new structure where you're no longer able to see what position you are consistently past number 10. So the way that that's described is on the search engine results page, the first page, if you scroll down, it will say display 100 results instead of just displaying 10. You can no longer do that. And the reason why, I think it does come down to money. It costs money to display positions 11 through 100. So if you can just display the top 10 and it saves you money, then why would you not? Now, that doesn't mean I agree with it. However, that is an update that Google made. So when we look at that update, what happened on the back end is Google made the update, and then any sort of tracking software, there are a bunch of different tracking softwares, all paid, that keep track of where you're located in search. Now in SEO School, we go over my favorite one and my most cost-effective one. But when it comes to coming up in search, the important thing to know is that when this software displays your results, it is using an algorithm that Google has set up. So what I want you to imagine happened 2 Thursdays ago, Google changed a back-end algorithm. And by algorithm, I should say formula. They changed a formula that is used by these other software options to measure where you're at in position 11 through 100. So what happened is all of the software that people use, most of the software, I've heard of one that did not. Most of them broke. Like I went on Friday night, I kept getting alerts in my email about my tracking software and about how all of these positions were dropping for my clients. And I was like, what is going on? Something is not right. So I went in and I saw that all of my clients had zero keywords in position. Now, obviously that's alarming for me, but I, come to find out, it's like, okay, well, this update just affected the formula, the changing of that formula affected the formula that's being used inside the software tracking stuff. So anyway, over the weekend, tracking and stats were all sorts of messed up. And then come Monday, obviously they didn't really comment on it too much, but we did get a notice that things are back, they're running, and it's not going to be consistent. We don't really know what's going to happen in the long run. So because Google is not allowing us, people who are tracking keywords, to see position 11 through 100 consistently right now, what's going to happen is the software, because it's an important thing to see, the software that I track or I use to track will likely just need to charge me more money in order for me to see that. Okay, so at the end of the day, what happened was Google made a formula change, and that affected the way that the software measures positions in search. Bottom line, okay? So when that change happened, that didn't change anything about SEO and what you need to do in order to come up in search, period. So I've been hearing and seeing messaging around you need to now do this, you need to now do this. I'm going to call bullshit. It's all the same. Nothing changed when it comes to SEO and what you need to do. And when Google changed this, people are in the forums and, you can look at SEO people talking amongst each other and they're all on the same page. And what I'm saying right now, it's just the goal has always been to come up in position 1 through 5 is the best, and position 1 through 10 is ideal. Right. So it'd be great to be on page 1, and it's really freaking good to be in number 1 through 5. And that has always been the goal. You're not setting stats and goals for clients and being well, I hope we get on page 2 today. That has never been a thing. So on my side of things, when it comes to what's the goal? The goal has always been to be in position 1 through 5 or 1 through 10. Obviously, if you're in 1 through 10, you're in 1 through 5. So anyway, great. So the goals have not changed. So what that means and what happened is Google simply changed a formula of tracking. They did not change a formula of how you're going to rank in search. So the second part of what I'm seeing is messaging around Google made a change. Let me help you make sure that you're still doing things right and see if it affected you. I'm going to also say you don't need that. What you need to know is that nothing changed when it comes to SEO. If you were putting in good SEO strategy tactics that go about implementation in the way that Google recommends and according to Google's best practices, then you're still doing everything you need to be doing. And if you're not, and you haven't started, like nothing has changed about what you actually need to do in order to come up in search. The only thing that changed is that Google changed a formula because I'm assuming at the end of the day, it's going to save them some money because they no longer have to track it. And what they're saying is that these results don't matter anyway. So why would we track them? They're just saying that if you're in position 11 through 100, you're not going to get the traffic anyway. You're not going to get the clicks. You're not going to get the person to click on your website anyway. So why would we bother spending money ranking those? And, you know, I just can't agree. I agree with that. I can't disagree with them. That is 110% where my head's at because we always have been, having a goal of being in position 1 through 10. Now, let me tell you the problem or the disadvantage of Google taking that away if you're no longer able to use tracking software to see position 11 through 100. So the problem with this, in my eyes, is simply going to affect ego and motivation. When it comes to doing SEO work, when you first start, I have a lot of clients and a lot of SEO school students who will say, oh my God, I'm ranking for nothing. I'm not coming up on Google for any keywords. Nothing that matters to me, my name and my business name. That's all I'm coming up for. And that right there is that is our baseline. And we know, okay, you're coming up for 0 keywords right now. So when we add a keyword and we start tracking it and we decide, okay, we would really like to come up for this specific keyword on Google. We add it to the tracking software and we see, oh, wow, we're in position 101 plus. That means we're not coming up in the search results. The goal then becomes to come up in search, right? So then we do SEO work and we implement SEO strategies to start coming up in search for that specific keyword. Now, ideally, what happens is we do the work that we set out to do, and then we increase our position and come up in search results for that keyword. And what usually happens is a client will see, oh my God, I'm at position 95. As soon as you get into the top 100, that means that you're gaining trust of Google and you should keep going and keep doing what you're doing. So the downfall of this for me and what the problem is it's going to be related to ego and motivation, because when you're doing this work, it's not like it's easy or fast. So to see improvements is so important and so validating that not being able to see that unless you're in the top 10 is going to be really hard for some people because they're going to say, well, I'm not coming up anyway. I'm not seeing any difference. Nothing's happening. Are there other ways to see if you're making a difference and if things are changing? Absolutely, yes. There are different ways. And let's hope tracking software still allows you to see position 21 through 100. But what I want you to take away from this is that Google making this change, they did not change the way that you implement SEO and SEO best practices. Nothing about that strategy and what you need to do in order to come up in search has changed. The only thing that Google did was they just said, we're no longer going to show position 11 through 100 because those people aren't getting the clicks anyway, which implies that you need to be at position 1 through 10, which we already knew and already had as a goal anyway. So all that to say, everything is just the same. It's the more of the same. And just to say this even more, I want you to take one other thing away from this. And I talk about it all the time. And this was this was an ideal way to talk about this. when it comes down to SEO strategy and how to do SEO, whenever I say do SEO, I have quotes, I'm like finger quoting, do SEO. All of that baseline strategy and foundational strategy has not changed for a really long time. Nothing has changed. Even now that we have AI and ChatGPT, etc., the baseline things that you need to do in order to come up on Google and AI software has not changed. Everything is the same. So when we think about a foundational strategy and like what we're learning, the only way I sat here and I was like, how can I illustrate that the foundational stuff will not change? I want you to think about it like anatomy. Regardless of what skills you learn and the courses that come out and the techniques that you're going to be, exposed to, what never changes is the anatomy. And I should say, like, I put an asterisk here. Obviously, there is individual variability, but we're not having people with like 2 humeruses one day. Like, the anatomy does not change. The baseline stuff does not change. We also are always looking at, structure and function and how function always follows structure. SEO, it does not change. That is the structure. That is the foundation. And the strategy that I teach in SEO School covers that. And, shameless plug for learning it from me, because one of the things that I find is just people make this so freaking complicated and they're like, oh, it's changing. You got to change this thing. And Shantae says it about like online business stuff. She'll say like pushing food around your plate. The baseline stuff is not changing. This stuff has been the same for the longest period of time. I will tell you that if you just implement the foundational steps, you're going to be in a great spot. I'm thinking about my clients who, they implement the foundational stuff and then AI came along, doing its little dance. And all they had to do, they already started coming up in AI search because they already had the foundational SEO stuff in place. And then on top of that, we started to see like, okay, if you do this thing, you do increase your chances to come up in AI search. So we implemented a couple things, but if you only implement that stuff, but you haven't done anything for your foundation, that's not going to help you because you have to have the foundation built first. All right. So all of that to say, and what I want you to understand is that the foundational concepts for SEO have not changed in a really long time, and I highly doubt they're going to change anytime soon. And once you learn them, you know them. It's not like we have to, change the way that we do things every month or every year, every single time Google does an update. Absolutely not. So it all stays the same. And Google's most recent update does not affect how we're going to be implementing things, what you need to actually do to come up in search. It only affects, those ego and motivational related stats that, would be really nice to see progress with, especially if you're just getting started. And I wholeheartedly agree that seeing if you move from position 90 to position 84 to position 55, that is a huge ego boost and it does make you want to keep going. So for me, it is a little unfortunate if software will not allow us to track that way. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and our goal is staying the same. And maybe, potentially, we're going to have to wait until we're in position 11 to actually see, is this plan working? Obviously, there's other measures, but to see an actual number there and know what position you are, man, there's nothing better. All right, friends, that's all I've got for you today. Again, next Monday, SEO School does open to the public. Make sure you're on my newsletter list so you are alerted when doors open. And if you're interested but have questions, feel free to reach out to me via email. And other than that, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you so much. Alrighty, I will catch you next time.